Daily Ascent. I'm Molly Carmel, and this is the podcast I always wish existed, a bite sized, on the ground spiritual note that can shift your thinking and your outlook on life to help make us all a little bit more awake, alive, and ascending. So, I want to talk about a vow that I heard recently that I really haven't been able to stop talking about. And it kind of reminded me of this pattern that I've been working on, like probably my entire life. So, a friend of mine got married for the second time about 10 years ago. And her husband had been married before, and they'd known each other, I think, since childhood. And so when they wrote their vows, they kept it really, really simple. Basically, like, take it as it is, right? Take it as it is, love each other as they were. Not who they hoped the other one would become, not contingent on them changing or growing or finally getting it together, just like as is, as is. And she told me, that when they fight, when they really get into it, one of them eventually would have to stop and say, like, remember, we bought it as is, right? Remember, we chose each other as we were. And I really love this so much. And I also know how hard that vow sounds. So simple and so beautiful, but really, if you unpack it, it's a really, really toughie. And I know for me, that is something I have genuinely had to work on in my own spiritual path. I have had a spiritual guide of mine look at me way more than once and just ask me this question, like, can you love them as they are? Like, can you love them as they are? And gosh, when she would ask me that question, it was not an instant yes, right? And so, it's a hard question, and it still can be, because I know I can be really attached. I imagine you can be really attached to the picture that we carry of how people in our lives should be showing up. And here's the thing, this goes way deeper than romantic love, right? Like, we can do it with our kids when we're absolutely certain that they should be doing things differently, or our coworkers, or our close friends, the people we've known for decades. And I don't know, that circle expands real quickly. We can think our contractor should be different, the person cutting our hair, the cashier at Trader Joe's. Like, we can walk around with this internal picture of how everyone around us should be showing up. And when they don't match it, listen to this, when they don't match it, we suffer. I mean, they also really, really suffer, but we suffer. And honestly, once you start noticing this pattern, you can start seeing it everywhere, which is obviously uncomfortable, but also kind of the point. And here's what I've come to understand and continue to work on. When I'm suffering because someone isn't who I think they should be, that's actually not information about them. That's information about me. That frustration and disappointment and that quiet wishing that they were different, that's actually mine. And usually, if I'm honest, it's pointing at something uncomfortable in me that's a lot easier to project onto them than to sit with. You get it? Like, they're just a mirror. And so the invitation in my friend's vow, I think, is pretty radical, because it asks us to put that picture down and to ask ourselves, like, who is exactly in front of me, and can I love them exactly as they are? And so today's reading is from Lamott, who, I mean, I don't know her. She's just one of my pocket sages, but I find her to be the least judgmental person I don't know. And this is from her book, Somehow Thoughts on Love. Love is a piece of toast and a diamond. It's a sturdy and imperfect shelter all around and deep inside, a lantern with warm, bracing light, a magician. When life has lost its promise or disappointed us one too many times, when it is hard to trust again or feel alive and curious again, love beckons us over and asks, got a minute? What is there to lose? A lot. Familiarity, complacency, the illusion of control. Let me read that one again for those of you in the back. Love is a piece of toast and a diamond. It is a sturdy and imperfect shelter all around and deep inside, a lantern with warm, bracing light, a magician. When life has lost its promise or disappointed us one too many times, when it is hard to trust again or feel alive and curious again, love beckons us over and asks, "Got a minute? What is there to lose?" A lot. Familiarity, complacency, the illusion of control. And I mean, what gets me every single time is that last line. I mean, that's what gets me in life, the illusion of control, because that's exactly what we're holding on to when we decide that someone we love should be different, right? That belief that if we just want it hard enough, if we nudge and wish and mother and manipulate, then they'll become the version of themselves that we've decided that they should be. And, Anne Lamott names it so quietly. That's not love. That's control wearing love's clothes. And so our word of the day today is vow. Not a wish, not a hope, not a feeling. A vow is actually a choice. It's a deliberate choice about what we are committing to, regardless of who's annoying us, regardless of, how we feel on any given Tuesday. A vow says, I've looked at this clearly and I am choosing it. And what makes my friend's vow so striking is how specific and honestly, how really, really hard it is to love someone as they are means that we give up the project of changing them. It means we've stopped negotiating with reality and decided to live in it. And that's not passive and that's not settling. It's one of the most spiritually demanding things a person can do, honestly, because it requires us to keep turning the lens back on ourselves every time we feel that pull to point our lens somewhere else. That is impossibly challenging spiritual work. And a vow to love someone as they are is a vow to keep asking ourselves, right? Is this about them or is this about me? And if we're honest, ascenders, we already know the answer most of the time, right? So when you are suffering because someone isn't who you think they should be, that is rarely a them problem. That's a you problem. And I say that with all the love of my heart because it's also a me problem, right? And trying to change someone without their permission is one of the most quietly painful things we do in relationships. It's painful for them because nobody wants to be someone else's renovation project, and people feel it even when it's unspoken. We say plenty when we say nothing. And it's painful for the relationship because you can't be fully present with someone that you're constantly wishing were different. And it's painful for you because you're spending so much energy on something that's not yours, to control. And it really doesn't work. And the reading calls love a sturdy, imperfect shelter, not a fantasy, not a project, something real, something that holds weight, something that requires you to give up the illusion of control. And the spiritual truth underneath that is that the discomfort that we feel when someone isn't meeting our picture of them is almost always pointing something in us worth looking at. Maybe it's an unmet need. Maybe it's fear. Maybe it's an expectation that we picked up somewhere that was not ours to carry. Maybe it's our own not enoughness, but it belongs to you, not them. And that's the work that my spiritual guide, Francesca, always keeps pointing me to, right? Not how do I get this person to change, but what is my reaction to this person telling me about myself? And that question is like infinitely harder, right? But it's the one that leads somewhere. And real love, the kind that vow is talking about, it just sees someone fully and chooses them. It really doesn't mean that you don't get frustrated with them or disappointed in them, but it does mean that you've committed to asking yourself first, like, is this about them or is this about me? Is this theirs? Is this mine? And you keep asking it, not once at the altar, but over and over and over again. And by the way, with your kids and your friends and your contractor and the cashier at Trader Joe's. I mean, that's the practice. That's the whole thing. So here's your reflective question for the day. Who in your life are you struggling to love as they are? And what might that be telling you about yourself? And listen, if the person that you're having the hardest time loving right now is yourself, and if you've been waiting until your body or your eating, your relationship with food is different before you extend yourself grace, oh, namaste. But that is exactly the work that we do in my Stop Starting Over system, and we start from exactly where you are. And if you want to book a discovery call with me, my goodness, do I want to chat? And you can find that link in the show notes, or you can go to my website, mollycarmel.com, to learn more. And I am right here with you, Ascenders. I'm putting the picture down one day at a time. And listen, if this episode made you think, send it around, post it on your Instagram, yell it from the rafters. We would love to have more Ascenders in our crew. We rise together. Until next time.